tell us kind of the progression of your symptoms and where you are now.
So I remember a doctor I went to, he was like, you have congestive heart failure. And that's when it hit me, like, I was like, damn, like, that's, because I was still learning, but when he said that, I'm not gonna lie, I think I was, 23? I was very scared. Like, being that young and having heart failure,
Were you
like,
by yourself in that appointment?
yeah,
Oh,
I was by myself. And it was probably the most scariest thing, one of the most scariest things, because I didn't even know what to do. I personally, I cried a lot. I felt just, and I had to leave everything. So at this
who'd you
time,
call first?
I think I called my mom, actually. No, I think I called my dad, actually. I found out it was a genetic thing. So it was just so many emotions, I'll be honest with you. And I'm glad to be doing better now, like mentally, emotionally, physically. But initially, I just didn't know what to do. And I was in disbelief because here I am about to start my senior year of basketball. I'm a captain. And then I just couldn't, it was hard to process. And then what I did was, at the end of the month, I ended up moving back. I moved to Miami with my mom. So I had to just drop everything I was doing. And I saw my physical condition just deteriorate. Like, literally, I was becoming like so just unable to just do normal stuff. Like, going to walk maybe 10 feet, it became a challenge. So I was in Miami for about, I think, 8 months. And between that time, to be honest with you, I really wasn't doing anything with my life. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have good doctors at the time. I was trying to find a specialist. I was trying to figure out what to do. And I spent a lot of time just every day. I didn't do anything, to be honest. And then I don't remember what happened. I think one day I just decided that I'm gonna just do something with my life, because my mom was even kind of feeling kind of bad for me too, because I'm the person that's always hustling, doing something. She's not used to seeing me just, down, because physically, like, I'm feeling terrible. So she's not used to seeing me like like this. So it kind of took a toll on her, even my brother, but they didn't really know. They couldn't experience how it felt. So it was just more of just the physical aspect that was just wearing on me. But, whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna be honest. I accepted the fact that I could die, because it was what it was. And then I rolled back into my classes. I finished that a couple months later, started getting back into events. I just started just
Pushing it.
I was still quiet about it. Nobody really knew about it. And then eventually, like I said, I went to Cedars, and that's when.
Hold on, but you lived in Miami for 8 months. So you're in Miami, and then you moved back to LA. Yeah. So like you got to tell like I need details. I want like because you're in Miami at home with your mom, getting back into events, starting to do things. You're like, you know what, I'm gonna do something, and you're like, fuck it, I'm going right. So you going in right?
So literally what happened was I graduated in June, and I'm tired of living with my mom. I'm like, you know what, mom? I told her, I love you, mom, but I can't do this. So I ended up moving to Long Beach. I got a little studio, and then I started doing my events again. And to be honest, at this time, like, I'm trying to get disability because I can't do nothing. I can't really work. The only thing I could do was do my events. That's how I was supporting myself. And it's what I'm doing now as well. I got an event coming up in May. So if anybody want to support me, man, come to my event. You know what I mean?
What's the name of your event in May?
Oh, Born Ready LA.
Born Ready LA.
It's cool. Born Ready Films. We might have to do a collaboration. It's a dope event. We're gonna have artists, different small businesses. It's gonna be a dope event. I might even perform a song. I used to make music. I don't do music no more.
Okay.
But honestly, it's gonna be dope.
So you came back to Long Beach. You got a studio.
Yep.
You're still symptomatic. You're trying to get disability.
Very symptomatic.
Very symptomatic. And then what? You just were like, man, I got to go to Cedars one day. Like, what happened?
So I think at this moment, I'm so symptomatic. Like, it's like Jefferson will tell you afterwards. He was with me day to day.
When you say really symptomatic, give me the top 3 symptoms that you had.
Literally, I would just lay on my couch. Like, I wanted to do stuff so badly, and I was working on my events. Jefferson would come with me, and I just physically was.
You short of breath?
Yeah, very short of breath. My chest felt heavy. I was tired. Like, just doing normal tasks, it felt so difficult. I never want to feel like this. Like, I'm grateful to be where I'm at now, health wise, but like, it's something that I wouldn't wish on anybody. Like, I can't even explain.
And here's what everybody really needs to understand about the heart. So when you guys look up here and you guys can see the heart, you guys can see the lung. You got to remember that the heart sits in the center of your chest, and the right side of the heart collects blood that's already been used, and it pumps it to the lung. When it pumps that blood to the lung, as you take your deep breath, you're taking the oxygen out of the air and you're putting it into your bloodstream and onto your blood cell. That's what your lung is doing. And then your lung pushes that blood on to the left side of your heart. So if you can imagine this for a second, that the left side of your heart isn't functioning appropriately, meaning it's not pumping anymore. It's not pumping as much blood. That volume of blood still has to stay somewhere. So you get a backup. But remember, on that left side of the heart, where did the blood come from? It came from your lung. And so if that blood is backing up into your lung, we call that pulmonary edema. So you got all this fluid in these air sacs of your lung. So your lung can't do its job. And so because your lung can't do its job and that oxygen can't sip through that fluid and get into your bloodstream, you get really short of breath and really fatigued. And other things can happen too, right, Danielle?
Yep, absolutely. And then sometimes when the ventricle we were discussing dilates, so when it starts to stretch out, sometimes the electricity that makes the heart pump, so we have electricity in the heart, that makes the heart pump and squeeze. And sometimes when it dilates, it stretches out the tracks that the electricity goes through, and it can cause abnormal electricity. So sometimes people feel palpitations, meaning their heart skipping. Did you ever have those?
Yeah, like atrial fibrillation. Yeah.
Yes, yep, you
Yeah.
got it. Like atrial fibrillation, that's extra beats from the top of the heart. Then there's the ventricular ones, which are ones from the bottom of the heart. So sometimes sometimes they don't feel them at all, and they have tons of these extra beats, so sometimes they feel them a lot. And so it sounds like you are having all of the symptoms that we very much know are associated with heart failure.
Yeah.
When you went to the hospital, if you don't mind me asking, were you, when you went to Cedars, were you in cardiogenic shock?
So I remember, you know what's crazy? When I first went to Cedars, I just knew that this was it. Like I knew for some reason, I was like, man, like I just knew they were gonna figure it out.
You're in the right hands.
So even in the lobby, there was some woman walking out and she was like, this is the best hospital ever. Like, cause they literally was like, you know what I mean? So when I went to Cedars, the first night I went there, it was 4 a.m. I just was having trouble breathing. And I was like, you know what? I gotta go somewhere. And then I went, I checked in, and they did so many tests. Like this isn't an ad, by the way. I'm just being honest. Like when I tell you they did like 15, 20 tests and the other doctors did maybe 2 tests,
Amazing.
I was just like, wow. To be honest, if I didn't go to Cedars, the doctors told me I wouldn't have survived.
And Cedars is, I
Yeah.
believe they're still the number one heart transplant center in the country. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that is one of the best places to go in the world. I'm so glad you knew to just push forward.
Did they say that to you? Did they say if you didn't come to Cedar, yeah, you would have been
That literally, because what happened was the next day I went into cardiogenic shock, and some of the other hospitals don't have as many machines and resources.
This is after you came back from Miami, when you went to the hospital at 4 a.m.
So I went to the hospital in October.
in October of 22.
No, this was 24.
Oh, this is
It's
just last
recent.
year. So you went to the hospital in October of 24.
What, 4 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You was in the hospital October of 24. You get admitted. The next day, you're in cardiogenic shock.
What happened? So it's crazy.
Tell me.
I don't remember anything. All I know is I was getting pale. I couldn't feel anything.
Oh, yeah.
And all I remember is there was like 10 doctors that would come in the room, and that's how I knew it was serious. And I'm like barely cognizant of what's going on. My friend was with me crying and everything because they didn't think I was gonna push through. And then I think I had to do with the impeller.
Yeah.
I had to do getting the impeller.
Hold for a second. What's Impella, Danielle?
So the Impella is like a temporary LVAD that is used just temporarily when someone's in cardiogenic shock, that helps to offload the left ventricle, meaning take some blood from the left ventricle and distribute it to the body when someone has heart failure. So when that left ventricle is not squeezing the blood appropriately to the body, you can offload it so you can get some of that blood out of the left ventricle and be able to distribute it to the body. But it's temporary, and it's something what we sometimes see in cardiogenic shock.
So
Yeah, so when the heart doesn't work, you give it a little machine, and the machine pumps the blood.
So yeah, then got that, and then we were trying to get a heart. I think I was status 2. I wasn't able to get a match which is when you get a heart transplant, there's a bunch of different factors like blood type, size, weight. So they want to give you a perfect match because it's a heart, it's a serious procedure. I wasn't able to get a match, and then we went and got the LVAD.
So, Russell, it's October of 2024, 5 months ago, 4 months ago. You're admitted to the cardiovascular intensive care unit in complete cardiogenic shock. You don't remember anything. You are like literally, and I'm not saying this to be dramatic, I'm saying this to be very serious. You're on death's door.
Yeah, literally.
Right? You're 25,
24.
24 years old, right? On death's door with cardiogenic shock. You get an Impella device. You're put on the transplant list. All of this is happening. You don't remember probably half of it. But when you actually come to and you're alert and you're oriented and you can kind of interact, what is going through your mind?
It's crazy because I still don't feel like I'm the same person in a way. Like everything that I'm experiencing now feels new to me again. Even going out in public. The other day I went by the hospital, and it was weird because I wasn't in the hospital, and now I'm able to go do normal stuff. I would say when I was in the hospital, I mean, I was glad that I was finally getting care, that I needed. It was just unbelievable to really like process because I think once it finally got to that point and I went on social media and posted about it, I really posted about it because I just had to spread some type of awareness, and I just couldn't, I just had to, like, I had to get it out, and luckily I got a lot of support, and it was just really a shock. Like a lot of people that I knew, I'd never gotten so many messages ever. So it was just a thing as to where I was just processing and navigating it, trying to be positive. My body was in a lot of pain. Like that's a whole nother topic. But when your body's going through that much stress, it's just like I felt a lot of different pain. It was just a lot. But I was just trying to process it, being as positive as I can. And I think for the most part, you know, I just came to terms and I was happy that I was in the right place per se. I mean, I didn't want to be in the hospital, but it's better than, being alive than,
And I'm
not
sure
being
your
alive. So
mom came, your mom showed
yeah,
up, right?
mom, dad, brother.
And you had the Impella, and then did you immediately go from the Impella to the left ventricular assist device? Is that what happened?
So what had happened was they were talking about the LVAD, and I already knew about the LVAD. I did so much research, and I personally was opposed to it. I remember my doctor, he became a cardiologist because I think one of his closest friends had hypertrophic and passed away. I seen him yesterday. It was great talking to him. He came in, he was telling me, longer term, this might be the best thing, because because the Impella, you can only be on there for so long now, and then you got to get the LVAD. So I was very opposed to it. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to see if I could stay longer
When you say stay longer what?
on the Impella to see if I can get a heart.
Oh,
So
so you're an inpatient still. You're still in the hospital.
yeah, so I didn't want to do the LVAD, but then, I had to pretty much just look at things, look at the bigger picture. I think for me personally, it took me some time to accept myself because now being in this position, I have a device.
Do the HeartMate 3.
Can I show everybody? For people that probably never seen this before, this is what it looks like. You got a controller right here, and you got batteries. This HeartMate 3.
Yeah. Oh, it is a heart rate.
So
Okay, cool.
fully charged right now.
Amazing.
And then you got the controller. So this has, all the different settings on it and stuff, information.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was very opposed to it. Let me put this back in the thing. I mean, looking at it now, I guess it's just a part of me. So I personally don't feel any type of way about it. I'm just glad that we have this type of technology.
Danielle and I were talking about this, this morning. We were talking about LVADs. We both have experience with it inpatient wise. We both have experience with it outpatient wise. We don't do it every day, right? People with cedars, they do it every day. But essentially, how does it work?
So HeartMate 3, so I'm not a transplant specialist, but I do have, or heart failure specialist. I'm a preventive cardiologist, but I do have patients that I refer to cedars all the time because they are truthfully the best, I believe, in the world for this exact reason. So an LVAD, a left ventricular assist device, this is a device that Russell has that essentially is helping there's inside his heart, there's a cannula, there's a device that takes some of the blood from the left ventricle of his heart, where we were talking about that area that is not squeezing as much blood out as we'd like. and it offloads it essentially to the aorta, which is the vessel outside of the heart that gives blood to the rest of the body. Then it's connected. It's powered, right? Because it's not based on, the sun. It's based on actual energy. It's a charged device. And so you have something called a drive line where I see his drive line right there, and that's what's connected to his pack. And it goes into the body to power the device. The HeartMate 3 is a phenomenal device. Actually, things have changed, a lot in LVAD. The HeartMate 3 is a really sophisticated, incredible device. It has less risks of, pump thrombosis. That means when there's clot builds up in the pump of the LVAD, or various different kinds of risks. And it's a much better device than, we've ever seen before. And the reason why people have LVADs, there's a few reasons. Some people get what's called a destination therapy LVAD. That means they get the LVAD, they may be older, and for whatever reason, they are not a transplant candidate, which can be for a variety of things. People with certain kinds of malignancies sometimes aren't a transplant candidate. Maybe they're too frail, too old, and they can get a destination therapy LVAD and live with it for years and years and years and do phenomenal with it. Then we have bridge to transplant, which I'm sure you may be in that boat. Some people get a LVAD where they are using it in the temporarily interim until they find that heart transplant that's the right fit for them. Because actually, you so brilliantly said it's complicated heart transplant. We don't just take any heart and put it in any body. You want a heart transplant to succeed. And the most amazing thing I've seen in cardiology over the last, since I started med school in 2010 is how phenomenal heart transplant is now. I mean, people get heart transplants and live decades with their transplant doing really well. The medications have changed. The entire way that they do immunosuppression has changed. People do phenomenal on heart transplants. So since LVADs are such a great way to keep a person doing great like Russell is now and keeping him healthy, because we want to keep that individual really healthy so that way his body's healthy, his bones are healthy, his muscles are healthy, his lungs are healthy. So that way when he goes and gets his heart transplant, that heart's going into the healthiest, fittest body it can and the right fit. So it's really been a magical change in cardiology having a phenomenal device like this, because it gives enough time for people to match the right heart with the right patient and, set you up for success and also allow you to feel a lot better in the meantime.
Just like Danielle said, LVAD stands for left ventricular assist device, and you're just taking blood that would normally be pumped by the heart, and you're letting the machine pump the blood up to the brain through the ascending aorta and then to the rest of the body. Sometimes there are consequences from having one, right? So he's basically got a wire that's going through his skin into his ventricle, and the skin has bacteria on it. So you got to make sure that it doesn't get infected, right? Skin infection can happen. Sometimes that drive line can get infected. I've seen it happen. I remember it in residency and fellowship. That can be an issue. So you make sure that person doesn't have that. Danielle already mentioned the blood clots can happen. So he's on a blood thinner, right? He takes a blood thinner every day to make sure his blood is thin enough so it doesn't pool and clot. Because if it clots, one of the other consequences of it is that clot can go through that line up to the brain and you get a stroke, right? Because a stroke is essentially a heart attack of the brain. It's just a clot of some of the smaller vessels in the brain. And when that happens, your brain starts to die out. So you can get a stroke. And then the other issue is aortic insufficiency can be worse with an LVAD too, right?
Yeah, and also the other concern long term, most notably, is the right heart. So, when you have left side of the heart's getting supported, the right side of the heart could sometimes be strained. So I'm sure that you get tons of checkups and they're constantly evaluating how both sides of the heart are doing. Is yours a bridge to transplant? Is
Hmm.
that kind of the plan
Yeah.
for you? I'm just so impressed with you. You're doing all the right things. You're out and about. You're leading that healthy life, and I'm so I'm so happy for you, because when I see heart transplant patients, I actually have several, and they all go to Cedars, and every single one of their positions is amazing there for their transplant, and they do so great. Heart transplant it's a new world, and I think that you're preparing yourself to be the healthiest vessel for that new heart you get one day.
Yeah. I mean, before this, I was an athlete. I was very healthy. I was always
Yeah,
working out, doing the right things.
it's a part of you.
Yeah. Like, even I like being active, and I'm just glad to be outside and doing things again and going from point A to B. Another thing is just everything happens for a reason. I think the biggest thing for me, I questioned like God, I questioned everything, but I feel like it's part of my purpose to use my voice. I didn't necessarily want to be the advocate for this, but I had to sit down and think and come to terms with it and realize like what I'm really doing. It's not just about me. You know, it's a lot of people out there in the world that have this condition and are afraid to talk about it, you know? And if I could talk about it and show people that you can still live your life, I guess I'm disabled, but mentally I'm able. I could still do everything the same. I could think the same because there's people in the world that are physically good, but mentally they're not able to execute. So it's like, I feel great, you know? I'm glad to have a second chance, and I live my life every day as if I had a year left, what would I do? You know?
That is
So
a interesting way to put it.
like if you had a year left, you would do as much as you possibly can. You try to enjoy it. So my whole perspective on life is definitely different. I value time more. I value relationships more, and I just value like purpose. You know, why am I doing this? Why am I with these people? And I'm just glad to be here because I personally, when I was in the hospital and everything and recovering, man, I've never felt like that, and I never want to feel like that again. I'm just glad to get back to this point where I feel like like a normal person again.
And I think it's also important, you're in the best place, you're in the best hands, you have such a good attitude. And I think it's important just to hear from doctors on the other side. Like for me, I see my transplant patients that, even though I'm not a transplant cardiologist, but I see them for other reasons and I share them with their main physician is their transplant physician. But I see these men, women living their lives doing so well. And I think it's important for you to know and for people out there to know that transplant has changed so much. It's people live decades. I think the oldest heart transplant I saw when I was a resident, and I'm sure at Cedars they have even updated numbers here, but at Temple, the oldest heart transplant I saw was 22 years,
Mm.
which is amazing. He had this heart transplant 22 years. He was doing phenomenal. And so I think that you have a beautiful future ahead of you and you're going to be helping so many people in the process.
The longest one was actually 39 years.
39. Can you?
Yeah, I forgot who it was. And then there's a guy who ended up playing professional sports. It's something Smith. He had one and he had it for I think 33 years. He just got a second one.
Amazing.
He's an advocate as well. I can't remember his name, but he had a heart transplant and played professional soccer, which
Amazing.
is crazy.
That is great.
Amazing.
Yeah.